truth. Live.
I'm not against technology, Doctor. I'm against the men who deify it at the expense of truth.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Welcome, my friends. Armor of Truth Live number 447. Helping you bust the PSYOPs.
Faith is resistance.
All right, everybody, welcome to the show. It's number 447. That's a lot now. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of things you need to be made aware of. More than anything, you need to be made aware of what's real and what's fake. Bear with me. Okay. Summer, welcome to the show.
Happy Monday.
And it's a rowdy crowd. Small but rowdy.
Unplugged.
An unplugged rowdy crowd. All right, so, yeah, this is what we're dealing with right here. This guy.
So Calvin Robinson has officially gone off the deep end. He's jumped ship and he's now supporting the woke mob.
Well, Calvin is going to, I would say he's going to support the Pope, but he didn't seem to be that big a fan of Francis, but for some reason.
Yeah, it's like you would think during the COVID era, the strong COVID era, that he was against woke policies, but now he seems to be completely on board and virtue signaling about it. So in that secular humanist way, he's cheering for the secular humanism crowd.
When you get a hold of someone's idol, it usually upsets them.
Well, it exposes where they're susceptible.
We're going to get to Alex Jones in just a second, of course. I want to talk to you about a couple different things today. Ultimately, at the end of the show, I'm going to give you a biblical framework for busting social media psyops. Yes, the Bible does talk about social media psyops. Not by name, but by application for sure. I don't know. Can you see that right there? There we go. So you can see what's going on here, right? Gas prices are high. So Trump's a failure. How can a president be so dumb? Gas prices exploding worldwide. $4.16 in the U.S. Mm-hmm. What will we do? Mm-hmm. Even higher across Europe and Asia, crushing middle class and lower class families who can barely afford groceries, rent, school fees, or commuting. If you would take 2 seconds, 40 minutes, and read the national security strategy, you wouldn't have to be making such stupid comments. Sorry. Mm-hmm. You would understand exactly what's going on here. So, can we point? I mentioned this earlier. Maybe in the next show or one of the shows this week, I'm just going to go through the national security strategy. I'm not going to read it top to bottom, but I'm going to go through and read the most relevant highlighted points because clearly no one's reading it. And if that's the case, then we'll just read it for you.
Right. I mean, people are just so impatient. They don't
It's,
understand that when, you know, in order to unwind a system that has had its tentacles around us for years, you have to have some patience. You have to understand that there will be bumps along the way and things are not going to be immediately working. You know, have you ever renovated an old house? Actually, when you're renovating an old house, everybody knows that that's way harder than to build something brand new. But we don't need to erase our foundations. We don't need to burn all of our institutions down. We need to get back to the principles that our founders created this country on. And that when you do a renovation, it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of tweaking. But all the evidence is there is that this administration is doing everything in its power to get us sovereign again as a nation.
I just wanted to show you because of what you just said there. Look at this on page 17 of the National Security Strategy, which is the administration's foreign policy statement, which explains everything they're doing right now. Mm-hmm. The terms of our alliances and the terms upon which we provide any kind of aid must be contingent on winding down adversarial outside influence. 50 years at least, the imperial system has had control over our nation. That's not going to be wiped out in 1 year.
Yeah. Yep. And the only thing that they've really got going for them is the fact that they do control these algorithms and they can suppress, you know, whose message that they want to amplify and whose message that they want to make quiet.
This is the national security strategy. Again, I'm not going to go into it today because we're going to talk about busting the PSYOPS today. But I just want to show you very quickly here every single thing that's happening right now. Everything that Tucker Carlson and, I don't know, Calvin Robinson and Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens and now Alex Jones, every single thing they're complaining about is explained in great detail right here in this foreign policy strategy. They're just revealing to you that they don't care about you. They're really not truth seekers. They're click seekers. And there's nothing more to it than that.
Well, that would be the most charitable
or agents.
Assessment.
Or agents.
Yeah,
or both.
I would be inclined with the unity of their message is, you know, that it's nefarious, but, you know, it's not necessary to prove that.
Yeah. Let's see. There is the one. Well, it talks about energy independence in here. I'll get away from this because I'll get pulled into that. So gas prices, big problem, right? Everyone cares so much about the people in Iran, you know, the actual people, not the regime, but the people who live in Iran. They care so much about them that they will not stand for $4.16 a gallon gas. Just not going to stand for it. They're not, the people in Iran are not that important, are they? What do the people in Iran want? Did anybody bother to ask them what they want? Because when you poll them, they want that regime gone. That's just the fact. So the question is this, and it's something like this. If the United States is the largest oil producer in the world right now, right? If tankers are lining up along the Gulf Coast to buy American crude, why are we paying so much for gas at the pump now? Well, okay. It is a fair question. And the answer begins with a basic misunderstanding. When people talk about the oil industry, they treat it like it's a monolithic system. It's not. It's actually 3 separate businesses, each with its own incentives. First, out in the field, you've got the drillers, companies that pull crude out of the ground. Texas, North Dakota, shale fields all across the country. Think of them like farmers. They produce the raw resource. Second, there are refineries, companies like Marathon Petroleum, Valero Energy, and Phillips 66. They buy crude oil and they bring it to the refinery, and they turn it into gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. They're not part of the drilling operation. They're customers of the drilling operation. Think of them like mills turning wheat into flour. Okay? Then you've got, thirdly, the gas stations, where you go to get your gas. They buy finished fuel at a small markup, sometimes a big markup, but nonetheless a markup, and sell it to you, and you put it in your car, and you drive around and complain about Donald Trump all day. They're like the bakery at the end of the chain. So the system is simple. Driller to refinery to gas station to you. Now here's the key. Oil is not priced locally. Oil is priced globally. Even if, well, at least for now, we might see some changes in that because the global order is being reshaped, right? Mm-hmm. So even if the oil comes out of the U.S., even if it comes right out of Texas, it still competes on the world market. If a buyer from Japan or Europe is willing to pay more, that's where the oil goes. The driller doesn't give a patriotic discount. They sell to the highest bidder. That means American refineries are competing with the entire world just to buy American oil. And when they pay more, that cost gets passed down the chain to the gas station, ultimately to you. That's why prices stay high even when America produces more oil than anyone else. Now, layer in the global disruption. Trump as the wrecking ball, taking down the liberal international order or the globalist order or the new world order. Factor in that. The removal of the prime chess piece of the imperial system for the past 100 years at least. Not 100 years. 50 years. When events like what we see happen in the Middle East right now drive up prices, especially benchmarks like Brent crude, which is, what we get coming out of the Middle East, coming out of there particularly. The entire system shifts upward. American oil, which is the market, which is known as West Texas Intermediate. It might be cheaper, but the price of it still rises with global demand. So without America's production surge, gas wouldn't be $4. It would be $6. Are you with me? And a lot of the world outside of the U.S. is paying. They are paying much, much higher prices. There's another complication most people never hear about. Refinery limitations. So a lot of America's refining infrastructure was built a long time ago. And it was built to process heavy crude from places like Venezuela. That's usually what you get out of Venezuela is a kind of oil that's more difficult to refine. That's what comes out of mostly in the Middle East as well. Not the lighter, sweeter shale that we produce today. So even while exporting our own oil, we still import other types just to keep refineries running efficiently. That's not a shortage problem. That's a hardware problem. And there's one more factor, profit incentives. Right now, American refineries can often make more money selling fuel overseas than they can domestically. So even when fuel is produced here, a lot of it gets exported because the margins are higher. So when you pull up to the pump, you're standing at the very end of a global supply chain shaped by competition, infrastructure, limits, and the global demand. But here's the bigger picture. The same system supports millions of American jobs, and it drives massive economic output and has turned the United States from an energy importer, where we're dependent on other people, into a global energy exporter or supplier. That's good for us. And that shift carries strategic weight. So when countries depend on American energy, those trade relationships become security relationships. Energy is no longer just a commodity, it becomes leverage. It's about they want to be aligned with us. It gives us a positive influence on the world. Remember in the National Security Strategy, 3 concepts. They're not mentioned there, but the author of it mentioned them. Prestige, prosperity, and peace. Prestige, that's influence. And the peace part, if we're exporting most of the oil, that takes some of the power away from the radical regimes who have it. So yes, $4 a gallon sucks. I just did it today. Right? I didn't put quite as much in, just half a tank. Are you proud of me for that? Does that help out at all this week?
I wouldn't mind if you put the whole, if you filled the tank, that would be fine.
Well, I mean, we filled your car up a couple days ago, and it was, you have a small tank, 12-gallon tank. It was, close, over $40.
Yeah.
So close to 50.
But, I'm an adult, and I realize that strategies and the reconstruction, the rehabilitation of old structures takes time.
There is a bigger picture.
You have to have patience. You have to have patience. When you see all these other things that are so awesome happening, you can't just sit there and whine about, the fact that you're having to pay a couple more dollars out of your pocket for gas or food. I mean, big deal, man.
People were, the administration early on was saying this is a temporary pain for a long-term gain.
Right, and that's been told to us over and over again, but then somehow everybody acts like that's some new shocking thing that's occurred.
Well, I think that people are people
they'll weaponize
traumatized by the forever wars and all. I mean, legitimately,
well,
people
how it works is they weaponize these things, like the things that they can really harp on that sound plausible. That's what they do. I mean, it's not necessarily even that they believe it or that they're actually outraged. They just, if it has teeth and it's a plausible argument, then they'll just repeat it over and over again just to beat people down.
This person says 20% of global oil runs through Hormuz. Flow disruption equals price shock. It's that simple. A blockade is leverage. Exactly. Right. The reason gas is not $6, $7, or $8 is because America is producing more energy than ever before. Why? Who did that? Mm-hmm. Who immediately came into office and said, drill, baby, drill?
Yeah.
Okay. The pain is real, right? Okay, it costs a little more, but the underlying shift is real.
Right. I mean,
and it's changing the balance of power in the world.
It's changing the balance of power in the world. And would you rather, have the globalist system under Kamala Harris?
Exactly.
And Biden and Gavin Newsom? I mean, do you want to go straight into totalitarianism, or do you want to pay a couple of dollars extra for a few months at the pump for what will ultimately secure the future generations?
I've seen it way worse.
I mean, it's silly. It's so silly how people
I've seen it way worse. During the Iraq War, I saw it way worse.
Yeah, I mean, people are just I mean, and that's the job of the propagandists, is to get people to hyper-focus on stuff.
Right. There is a much bigger picture going on here. When we were on with Alex Newman last time, as he was setting up to ask me a question, he was offering me the challenge. So you don't think this is going to cost countless U.S. lives and trillions of dollars? And well, it's going to cost a lot of money. But the thing that struck me that I didn't say at that time that I've thought about since is, well, how much would it be worth? How much would it be worth? How much would we be willing to sacrifice to end globalism?
Yeah,
because that's actually what's happening.
Is that the ending of globalism, but that ensures that people will continue to have liberties,
other nations,
religious liberty and freedom of speech, and our moral law grounded in God's law. So
and that is all spelled out in layman's terms in the National Security Strategy.
Exactly.
Have you read it? Do you want the truth, or do you just like to follow social media or your favorite YouTuber or podcaster?
The people that hang out with us don't. because they like to, I mean, they're not doing that. They're smarter than that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like in general,
Usually when I'm talking like that, I'm talking to somebody who may just drop in that's new.
the imperial we.
Of course, our audience is extremely intelligent.
Exactly.
How could we have any other kind?
The imperial we, the empire's version of reality that they want to thrust upon everybody, this nudging.
All right. Well, let's move on over to it's constant, right? The complaining. And it's because, folks, at the moment you are being subjected to an operation.
It's like an operation within an
sure.
operation within an operation within an operation.
Yes.
Like it's like multi-layered operations going on.
Yeah. And then why is that off to the side? Okay. Anyway. Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah. There's also, you mentioned the Pope and you mentioned what Calvin Robinson was.
Now, I did put, if you're able to get into our Substack, into the notes,
okay.
then I did post all his rantings there.
Why is this thing not? It's off to the side. Anyway. Yeah, I'll check it out here in a second. This was, there we go. That's better. So, yeah, Sean Ryan, who has fallen in with.
Asset deployed. He
is apparently one of the assets that's been deployed to fracture the base in our first opportunity in 50 years to take down the elites. Right? I was reading earlier there. What did it say? Yeah, you got to see this part too. Trump just wants to enrich his billionaire buddies. Yeah, here we go. Says here, is he trying to turn this planet into a luxury playground only for his billionaire fellows? The rich get richer. The rest of us bleed at the pump.
Gee,
really?
Sounds exactly like Marxist rhetoric.
Bleed at the pump.
The billionaire oligarch, colonialist, imperialist argument that they always
take a bus. Take a bus. Hey, why don't move to Europe where they have green energy and get yourself an electric car, I guess, or something.
Get yourself a windmill.
Who the hell voted for this clown? Well, I did. It says, enjoy your skyrocketing bills while he shrugs from the White House. Absolute disaster. Friends, this is nonsense. All you have to do is read what this is. I guess I'm going to have to open up that one quote that you have from it here, just so I can.
For some reason, it looks like it's kind of blurry-ish today. For some reason, I don't know if anybody in the chat wants to let us know. Right, yeah, I know. I'm looking at the screen, and it just looks a little bit fuzzy today. Right
from the National Security Strategy, in the section heading Middle East, our foreign policy toward the Middle East, as this administration rescinds or eases restrictive energy policies, and American energy production ramps up, America's historical reason for focusing on the Middle East will recede. So you're probably the same person, this tweeter here is probably the same person who's mad about the forever war Trump has started in Iran.
Well, it's probably also a bot.
This is the point. If he is successful in this, if the base can resist being fractured by this PSYOP, if he can be successful with this, there'll be no more Middle Eastern forever wars.
Exactly.
They won't exist anymore. We'll shut down the bases in the Middle East and we'll focus on our own region, not wars. You have to read. You have to just spend some time reading so you can understand what is actually being done. You can understand the economic policy that they're trying to return to get out of the global entanglements. And the other claim there was, this is bad for the middle class. The national security strategy is unique in that it is a foreign policy strategy that has at its number one priority the middle class. So anyway, Sean Ryan put this thing out a few days ago relating to what Summer was saying about Calvin Robinson there. You would expect that from Calvin, though, because he's some kind of Catholic. It's very difficult to define what kind of Catholic he is.
Yeah, but when you read the post that Trump made, like, Actually, it doesn't make sense because the positions that Robinson had during the COVID era, he should be resonating with so much of what Trump says, and like he's reacting to a specific post, and it doesn't make any sense. It's like it's exactly like what we've been able to track if you look at Megyn Kelly or Tucker Carlson or Joe Rogan or any of these people that have suddenly organically flipped.
Okay,
No,
I've got
they're
your.
just revealing that what they are, which is
I've got it up here now. What you posted.
Yeah, that's the actual post
Let me
that
hit the
Trump
see
had
more.
made.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, here are the images, and then Donald Trump wrote, or Summer wrote, another asset deployed against the Trump administration coming from the Vatican globalist camp via, sad to say, Calvin Robinson. The only time I've ever tried to go toe to toe with him, he actually responded, was when I was questioning his veneration of Mary at Christmas, which he was doing. And I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
And if I care about that guy, I want to say, hey man, that's wrong. But Calvin rarely responds in a debate fashion. It's always in ad hominem. But anyway, yeah, it's just like, back during the scamdemic, excuse me, YouTube, sorry. During all that in 2020 and 2021, it seemed like a lot of reasonable people, we could call them conservative and libertarian, all got together and said, this is crazy, this is insane.
Yeah, it was like Christless conservatives plus Christians plus Catholics plus libertarians
All
plus,
together.
Plus, like even the Brett Weinsteins of the world.
Yeah, we were
who have
all-
also proven to be
That's
dubious.
That's what happened. That's what got really probably, well, the thing that got Trump elected was Charlie Kirk, because what was needed was the vote of people
The
30,
younger
35
people.
and younger.
Yeah, it's a huge population.
He got that vote. He's not here anymore.
Right.
He's not here anymore.
Which
but
is also why they viciously attacked TPUSA. I mean, literally, I don't know why people can't see through that more easily. Like, of course, they got rid of him because he was such a threat. They took him out, and then they've been relentlessly attacking his organization to try to destroy it.
many people, you'll see them today saying that, well, Charlie Kirk was against a war in Iran. Okay, yeah.
But that might have been the case then, but when circumstances change.
I think we're all against war. I don't think any of us are actually pro-war, right? But the thing that Charlie Kirk was consistently saying and living
is
out
that he trusts Trump.
Yes. He says, I trust the president.
Right.
That's another thing I said to Alex in that same interview. I think the president has earned the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah.
especially from those of us who put all our chips on the table to vote for him then.
Right. So I believe that Charlie Kirk, had he been alive now, he would be supporting President Trump.
He would be trusting him.
Because also it's been said over and over again that they were at the point of amassing enough firearms to basically prevent anybody from ever being able to, thwart their endeavor to try to get nukes. And so we had to act like we had to. So that's the defense of America. Plus, in addition to that, as we've talked about extensively, it's also about taking out this stronghold node over there in the Middle East that City of London and the empire has been controlling for dark money, illicit capital flows. And so taking that out means that there won't be those wars over there, and it takes out their ability to control, like through the shipping industry, Lloyd's of London and all of this, their ability to just control all of the products, who gets to be wealthy, who doesn't get to be wealthy, who has access, who doesn't have access. They're no longer controlling all of that, as has happened with the Strait of Hormuz today. So now you've got the United States taking, and the Trump administration gave them so much opportunity, like, hey, you come in and handle this. We don't care. We don't really need this over here. If you want to secure it, come on over. And they didn't want to do that. And so now it's like, okay, well, we're gonna make sure that this is under control over here, and that you can't extort and control everybody else around the world through this stronghold, which is this is it's the IRGC, but via City of London. That's the part that nobody's really talking about. That this goes higher than the IRGC.
Yeah. The thing that people need to understand is that the administration, I'm not just talking about Trump, the people around him, those who formulated this national security strategy, have identified the right enemy.
They have, and it's
for the first time in 80 years.
Yeah, and like we said, we told you in 1930, it was just widely known that our number one adversary was, over there in Europe. I mean, sad to say, that's just the reality of it. Was the British Empire? The Anglo-Dutch power structure empire has been America's number one adversary, and that was very widely understood.
I've got a link
until they infiltrated us enough. Through gradualism, the Fabian Marxist indoctrination of gradualism, where they've tried to condition us into our servitude. In other words, condition us into to believe that free trade is really the answer, and that the international rules-based order is the answer to, that's the proper way to conduct business and affairs within the world, that's the political system that we should be operating from. But in fact, what that does is it enslaves people, and it defrauds them and steals all of their resources and gets them dependent on other countries such that they can't operate with any degree of sovereignty, which all of that is changing now with the Trump administration.
So I've got a link up here, or a web page up here. It's the Secret City webpage. That where, if we're using this term, City of London,
Empire of the City.
Well, if you're curious and you think we're just conspiracy theorists and we're just pulling things out of thin air, you can go here and watch this document. It's on YouTube. You just search for Secret City. It's just not a good copy. If you go here to lee-salter.com, if you probably just search for Secret City, you'll find it too. Is that how you found it? Mm-hmm. Because I used the link you gave me. Yeah, so this is an hour and 11 minutes. And you'll find out what...
And indeed in the world.
Really, the city was hugely important, not just for the development of capitalism, but because Britain was the first capitalist power, and because this gave it an edge over its rivals, the city also spearheaded colonialism, imperialism, the export of capital, the development of productive assets overseas, and presiding over all this were the big merchant banks of the City of London.
London was founded by the Romans. On the south was the military encampment. On the north was the settlement. It was directly chosen to be the easy access to the south, easy access to the north, to the east, to the west. It was very Roman in that way. And it became very quickly the centre of Roman government, but particularly of...
So the point there is that the City of London is older than Parliament. Mm-hmm. It was established hundreds of years before Parliament.
Right, and they adopted the Roman system, like with their Praetorian guards. You could say that all these proxies of the City of London that go around and create havoc around the world are
proxies of Iran,
modeled after the Roman Empire's system. They adopted that system of empire to control.
So this is a good one to check out if you want to understand what the City of London is, because you need to understand that piece before you can understand exactly what it is that's at the heart of this thing we've called globalism for so long. The thing that's at the heart of this thing we've called the New World Order for so long.
Or the Great Reset.
The banking system, folks. The whole banking system, fractional reserve banking, making it so that a bank can loan out. I'll just put it into round terms.
Instead of physical economy.
Let's say a bank is holding $1,000 worth of gold or worth of money now, but which doesn't mean anything, but gold. They can lend out up to 10 times that once you have fiat currency. So the biggest difference and the thing that the administration is dismantling is financialization, speculation, where value is created from market speculation.
Right. And you and I were talking about how this really is a form of alchemy. You know, they've kind of put a spell on us as George Soros and
so because they control the markets that they profit from, particularly the oil market or the insurance market. That's Lloyd's of London. Right. So there's financialization on one side. What the Trump administration is trying to return us to is a physical economy based on production, actual production.
And not only for the United States, but for the world, inviting other nations to get on board and build up their own physical economies.
It's not just, they're trying to encourage everyone else. Yeah, because this is really about crushing globalism.
It is.
By getting allies that want to join with us on that. And a lot of Arab states are happy to do that because they're tired of being pushed around by the city of London and imperialism. Okay, let's get back over here. So Sean Ryan said something similar to what Calvin Robinson said last week. The Pentagon summoned the Pope's ambassador. Listen to this story. The Pentagon summoned the Pope's ambassador, told him the United States has the military power to do whatever it wants, and warned that the church better take its side. They even invoked the Avignon papacy, a dark chapter in history when government used military force to bend the church to its will. And then Sean Ryan finishes up with something very convincing, right? So where exactly does this end? If the Pope refuses to fall in line, what's the next move? Bomb the Vatican? You know what happened? This was a lie. This thing never happened. This so-called meeting where they summoned the Pope's ambassador never happened.
Yeah,
you know who started it? You remember who started that line? Ann Applebaum of the
that's
Atlantic.
Right, the Atlantic, of course.
The Atlantic, once again. Just a lie. They just made it up out of thin air, and then people like Sean Ryan take it and put it out there and use it against them.
I just want to take this opportunity. When I'm on Instagram, because, I post every day, I try to do that. The algorithm was just constantly feeding me stuff, and I'll go, oh, well, this is kind of interesting. And then I'll look into it, and it's like 9 times out of 10, it's all fake. Like, it's just fake.
Fake.
And so if you're, and clearly, I've shared with you guys before, I have my old Instagram account from when I was living in Asia. And I lived over there for, over a decade, almost 13 years. And all of the information that they're getting is all of this fake news. And so they're like literally interpreting, it's a perception war. They're perceiving reality like it's basically like we're living in a tabloid news, a rich environment of tabloid news. I mean, remember when we were at the grocery store when we were younger, depending on how old you are, but you'd be at the grocery store and you'd see all those tabloid magazines, and within them would be some, of course there would be the grain of truth and every once in a while in the tabloid magazine, but mostly it's just outrageous things. And so it's like that's what we're living in when you engage in social media right now, and what's really interesting about it is it's not even hard to disprove what a lot of these things say. It's not easy. It's like super easy to figure out that this was taken out of context, but people just like add it to their repertoire of building the case against like the United States and what the Trump administration is doing. And they feel so emboldened on all of their platitudes of facts that are actually completely fiction. And it's just like, wow, pretty wild stuff.
So it reminds me of our topic today, reminds me of Alex Jones himself, or it was his production company that produced a documentary called Psywar years ago. Here it is. And how interesting that today, Alex Jones is one of the main nodes in the Psywar. So yeah, it was a it's a good documentary. I mean, it does help you. I mean, there are a lot of the claims, like they'll say Hitler said, tell a lie enough times that it becomes the truth or whatever. It wasn't
Well, that's also advertising 101.
false, but a lot of false attribution. I mean, it does give you a good understanding of how media propaganda works.
Yeah, it's repetition over time. People will begin to accept it as reality. They'll just say, okay, I've heard this lots and lots of times, so therefore it must be true.
Was this Alex Jones? I don't know if it was his company or not, but he produced content, a lot of content just like this.
Public relations, or as one of the firms that has often represented dictators, the Burson Marsteller firm puts it, their business is perception management, to manage.
So this goes through all of the, it shows you many of the things that we've shown you before, where you see all of the news anchors saying exactly the same thing. But
This is a threat to our democracy.
yeah, that.
Yeah.
And very interesting today that all of these folks knowingly, maybe they're agents, maybe they're profiting from it, but they're all falling in. Even Sean Ryan has a series that he did with the Ironclad YouTube channel called PSYOP.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's a good breakdown of what
because
I've took a lot of tidbits from that little series.
you can, because the devil understands that, he has to convince people. He has to give them some reality, things that are real, points that are truthful. But what we've said over and over again, it's so freaking obvious that, the truth movement used to be this fringe on the internet, and now it's like the whole world is now been black-pilled, and they're just trying to get you completely discombobulated. I mean, that is absolutely what they're trying to do.
So this is one of the things that Alex Jones put out yesterday about the you had Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and Vice President J.D. Vance went to Pakistan to negotiate with whoever. I mean, they said they ended up having about 100 people that showed up there representing Iran. Clearly, no one's really in charge. People are vying for power, and they wanted to be the one to come talk to the president.
Well, and behind it all, again, is going to be City of London. So always keep that in mind.
There is a story there, a story longer than we can tell here. But you can rest assured that the moral of that story is that all of the destabilization in the Middle East since the end of World War II has been sustained. The destabilization has been sustained because of that 1 square mile city in the middle of London.
Yep.
And their insurance market, who insured the tankers that come not just the Strait of Hormuz. There are other choke points that they foment destabilization.
That was like the Internet of Things before the Internet of Things, is being able to control all the shipping, to know what products are going where.
Yeah, now they're trying to commodify well, that's what the green movement wanted to do. That's sustainable development, to commodify everything right down to every tree, every blade of grass, every human being. So anyway, and they do that through proxies. The book by Mark Curtis, Secret Affairs, tells you all about the imperial system, the City of London, working with terrorist regimes. This is the system that they're dismantling. What's up?
I was going to say.
Well, I was just talking to you.
I know. Yep.
Okay, so here's what Alex put out. This is what you're supposed to pay attention to, right? This is what Alex wants you to pay attention to. Iran's diplomatic corps say that Netanyahu and Kushner sabotaged the peace deal in the 11th hour. What's the evidence of that? Well, here it is, folks. Pay close attention to the expression on Jared Kushner's face. He's extremely happy. Well, let's look at him. What is he doing? Is he happy? Is he
This is just so ridiculous.
what is he talking about? Oh, there he is. Oh, there it was. There's the evidence.
Right.
There's the evidence.
And it feeds this. It feeds the psyop of anti-Semitism, because it's Kushner.
So this is what a psychological operation looks like. If you have been already primed to question everything that Trump does, or you've been persuaded that Trump is crazy or that he's out of his mind and doesn't know what he's doing and has no plan, once again, folks, if you can just read, you will find out that this is the plan and that there is an outcome that they're working for. And if you just read this document, you'll understand what that outcome is. It is returning sovereignty. Returning to sovereignty. But the reason he wants you to pay attention to this is because Alex Jones is engaging in a psy war. Right? Because you're meant to get suspicious and start listening to what Alex says, because you might not be sure what Jared's doing, but Alex will explain it to you.
Just to bring it more again and ground it into the concrete, it's like they want any nation, like for example, Hungary, any nation that wants to assert its national sovereignty becomes enemy number one. They get accused of protectionism, isolationism, white supremacism. That's the deal. Like if you're not willing to submit to the international rules-based order under the Great Reset kind of thing, then you're going to be labeled enemy number one, and all the propaganda is going to be aimed at demonizing you. And that's what we're seeing with the Trump administration, the way that the global media syndicate is demonizing from every angle the Trump administration and what it's doing, because it's bringing back on board the American system of political economy, which has historically been successful for the United States.
Let me explain to you what that is by reading. I'll go ahead and read just a piece, excuse me, from the National Security Strategy, which explains what you just said. What is this American system of political economy? All right, so I have to scroll here to find it. Here is the actual strategy. When it gets to the economy, balance of power, pro-American worker, by the way, fairness. We want to go back to merit-based system. End of mass migration is over. Protection of core rights. Economic security. Economic security is fundamental to national security. We will work to further strengthen the American economy with emphasis on balanced trade. Listen to what this says. Prioritize rebalancing our trade relations, reducing trade deficits. What you want to pay attention for is the term free trade, because free trade is the globalist system. No tariffs. They don't. This is why everyone is mad at Trump about tariffs. Not everyone, but those who want to defend globalism, knowingly or not, are mad at Trump about tariffs. Rebalancing our trade relations, reducing trade deficits, opposing barriers to our exports, and ending dumping and other competitive practices that hurt American industries and workers. Dumping is when a manufacturing nation dumps cheap products onto a nation, like China does us right now, which forces wages down and ends up making that nation dependent on the manufacturing company. We seek fair and reciprocal trade deals with nations that want to trade with us on a basis of mutual benefit and respect. But our priorities must and will be our own workers, our own industries, and our own national security. Secure supply chains. You want gas to be back down to 99 cents? Then get behind this, because that's what this will bring. And it says it right here, Summer. I wanted to read this part just for you. As Alexander Hamilton argued, Alexander Hamilton is the father of the American system of political economy. As Alexander Hamilton argued in our republic's earliest days, the United States must never be dependent on any outside power for core components, from raw materials to parts to finished products. We must resecure our own independent and reliable access to the goods we need to defend ourselves and preserve our way of life. Most importantly here, so there you hear, it mentions in here several times free trade as the weapon that's been used against us. And of course, this is the big one, reindustrialization. We've run down for you here many times the timeline of managed decline or deindustrialization, degrowth of the United States at a specific point from 1973 forward in the Council on Foreign Relations Project 1980s, where they called it specifically the controlled disintegration of the global economy with specific focus on the United States economy. The Trump administration is fighting against that, trying to dismantle it. The United States will reindustrialize its economy, reshore industrial production, and encourage an attractive investment in our economy and our workforce. Strategic use of tariffs and new technologies that favor widespread industrial production in every corner of our nation to raise living standards for American workers and ensure that our country is never again rely on any adversary, present or potential, for critical products or components. Whether it's, and this is again how the British Empire controlled colonies and other nations when it was prominent, and the same model. And of course, we have to be very clear about this. The administrations, particularly from Jimmy Carter forward up until Obama, and then again Biden, were all bought into this. Particularly Bill Clinton with bringing NAFTA in, right? Okay, excuse me. And then there was this post that Trump put up on Truth Social that people were really freaking out about all over the internet. Trump responds to backlash over an image he posted which seemed to depict him as Jesus. Trump responded and said, "It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better." Okay. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but yes.
We know he likes to troll.
He does troll
trolls around,
a lot. It even says it in the national security strategy that President Trump uses. Let's see, where does it say it? Anyway, I might not have time to go through that here, but it says the president uses a non-traditional diplomacy strategy, right? Ending a civilization tonight and stuff like that. The reason he is successful is because those who would like to take us down by taking him down, they don't know exactly what he's going to do. All of our presidents before this have been very predictable in what they would do. He's not. Okay. Now it doesn't mean that I approve of all of his rhetoric or his language or even this post. Yeah. That's not the point.
Can I read this one thing that I have that builds on what you've just said?
Yeah, go ahead.
So just to think about, we've got two competing visions that are happening right now. There are at present two primary forces shaping the direction of the world. On one side stand the nationalists, whose beliefs, those who believe a nation is sovereign and must prioritize its own people. This does not mean isolation. It means that every agreement, every partnership must ultimately serve the nation itself. On the other side stand the globalists, who use the same language but redefine it. In this framework, sovereignty becomes conditional, subordinate to a broader ideological project. Nations are sovereign only insofar as they advance that project. And that is where the inversion occurs. What advances the system is called ethical, and what resists the system is called dangerous. So again, when you see a nation trying to exert its national sovereignty against the international rules-based order, it's going to be labeled as dangerous.
Absolutely. I mean to do that. Here we go. I want to play this clip from Tucker too. Who, by the way, Joel Webbin, someone I used to respect.
Oh, he just went completely nuts for a while now.
I
mean, he's been
can't
crazy.
respect much of anything at all he's done in the past 2 years.
like he was maybe reasonable, like maybe the first year that he was on. And
Till
then-
he got an audience. Interesting enough.
Well, it just shows that there are wolves in sheep's clothing out there.
He
I mean,
puts it
there's
out.
no doubt about it.
He puts it out like this. Step 1, Trump replaces old MAGA. Tucker Carlson, who is a Christian. Alex Jones, who is a Christian. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a Christian. First of all, Tucker Carlson is not a Christian.
No, he's not.
He does.
No.
You see no fruits there. You don't see. He doesn't know what the Bible actually is.
He doesn't know what the Bible says.
He says it's the Word of God, but he doesn't believe it's the Word of God because he just said the other day that the book of
anything,
Esther shouldn't be in the Bible.
Well, if anything, being Episcopalian, he's following a form of the social gospel, which is based
At
off
least.
of liberation theology and the social gospel, which has to do with Marxism and
Which
wokeism.
he just affirmed
So,
a few
yeah.
days ago, agreeing with whoever that person
that
was
Christianity is socialism.
at its core.
So that's a social gospel. He's following basically what amounts to a Marxist worldview. I mean, when you boil it all down, Tucker Carlson is supporting Fabian globalist Marxist ideology.
So Webben says that Trump replaces old MAGA, these Christians that Joel is identifying as Christians, and replaces them with Zionists.
This is such an example.
And then he
of
blasphemes Christ.
the broad stroke. It's like broad stroke. Just like such a wide, broad stroke of implications. Accusations rather.
Let's listen to this. This is another meme that someone put together that shows you this is why you can't trust Tucker.
When he stood up after being shot in the face, bloodied, and put his hand up, I thought at that moment, that was a transformation. This was no longer a man. Well, I think it was divine intervention. But the effect that it had on Donald Trump, he was no longer just a political party's nominee or a former president or a future president. This was the leader of a nation.
There's been only one sustained effort to exterminate a faith, and that's the Christian faith. Could that be part of it? And is it possible that the president sees this not just in geostrategic terms and military terms and economic terms, got open and straight? Okay. Is it possible the president sees this in bigger terms? Sees this as the fulfillment of something or the elevation to some higher office beyond President of the United States? Because at every turn since the inauguration last January, there have been religious leaders on the scene telling us out loud. Most of us ignored it because we're just so secular, we just sort of ignore it. We've ignored that this could actually be real. There's something going on here.
So now Donald Trump is the Antichrist. Let me remind you, too, what Tucker said in this same talk here. Remember the comment he gave that you can't, it's not your job to mock someone's faith. We don't mock people's faith, because when you mock someone's faith, you mock the very idea of faith. That is the definition of weaponized ecumenical.
Yeah.
In other words, Tucker is saying there that all religions are just the same. As long as you have faith, you can have faith in a demon. You can have faith in Muhammad. And that should not be mocked. The problem is, all through Scripture, God himself mocks. He mocks false religion.
Yeah, he does.
Time and time again. The prophets mock false religion. God himself mocks false religion when the Philistines took the idol into their temple. No, they took the Ark of the Covenant into is it the Philistines? Am I right about that? Either way, they took the Ark of the Covenant into their temple and put it beside their idol. And the first night they came back and it had fallen over. And the next day they come back and it had fallen over and broken into pieces. That's mockery of a false religion, because it was in the presence of the Ark of the Covenant, which was supposed to be, the Lord was to be present there when they. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, what this does is these monologues or these lectures, these podcasts that Tucker Carlson is putting out, all they're doing is putting on full blast and full display his ignorance of what God has said. I mean, he's just basically, there's a lot of people who don't obviously know what the Bible teaches, won't understand it one way or the other.
Yeah.
But for the people that know what Scripture says, it's very discernible that he's, preaching something that is another gospel. He's preaching a false gospel.
Tucker knows. He knows very well that most of his audience is not going to question him. They're just going to listen to what he says, and because that's what conspiracy theorists do. Not truth seekers. That's what people who worship the idol of conspiracies do. They listen to their favorite speaker and they just repeat what they say. By the way, did anyone forget what happened on Easter? What is this, 3 years ago? 2 years ago? Joe Biden declared Easter Sunday as Transgender Day of Visibility. Mm-hmm. I think what happened on Easter, aside from the tweet that Trump put out, which I don't have a problem with that. It's, they would say you shouldn't put that out on Easter, as if there are other days where it's because they're saying that's crude and blasphemous, as if it's okay to blaspheme on other days, right? So it's not a coherent argument anyway. But anyway, Biden did this. Okay, now I did want to. But anyway, Biden. Hey, that's me. I did want to replay this, just a minute of this, so you can hear. Alex Jones has never been trustworthy. This is New Year's Eve, 1999, during the Y2K scare. I'm just going to play just a little bit of it, because I did play it in full a few shows ago.
Folks, I'm your man.
It's William Cooper.
What you ever get from the Hour of the Times is the truth. Now, I want you to understand that this little series that we're doing is nothing personal against Alex Jones or anybody else. But I happen to know for a fact, absolute fact, and listen to me very carefully, that people who practice this kind of broadcasting and claim to be an American patriot do nothing but discredit all of us eventually. It's wrong. It is absolutely wrong. This guy would take a call and some caller would report something, and instead of saying, well, we're not, like I do on this broadcast, when somebody calls in and wants to tell a rumor, I tell them, no, we don't do that on this broadcast. You want to call me tomorrow, I'll check it out. If it turns out to be true and the listening audience needs to hear it, then we'll make arrangements for you to call in, and it can be your story, and we'll do it. But that's the only way it's done on this broadcast. All of these other people, they take phone calls. And a lot of these phone calls are people spreading rumors. And these rumors, 99% of them turn out to be wrong. And it's wrong to allow that to happen. Especially when the host takes it and runs with it. Without any checking, without any calling, without any research, without anything.
So what did Alex do? Let's jump ahead.
This kind of fear-mongering. Listen very carefully, folks. This will frost you, and then we'll talk about it. I may stop the tape at certain portions, and we'll talk about it then. Listen very carefully. This is just snippets taken from the first 45 minutes of the Alex Jones show on December the 31st, New Year's Eve. This is news. What I'm reporting here to you is hard news. This could have resulted in the shutdown of the whole country, the declaration of martial law, mass hysteria and panic by millions of people. And this is the guy, along with a few others, but this is the main guy who was whipping it all up. Listen carefully.
Cash machines are failing in Britain and now other European countries. They're finding large amounts of explosives in France. Vladimir Putin, who is known as Vladimir the Ruthless, and using all his profanity on national TV, you name it. We won't read the profanity here, but we've got it. This person is on an unbelievable power trip and resembles a demon. He is a creature of the IMF and the World Bank and international communism. He is a former KGB head, and this information is vital, ladies and gentlemen. We are seeing the New World Order really come out in full force. More wars than have been in the last 50 years are going on right now. The war in Chechnya.
He goes on. We played it in full in another show, so I won't play it all here. But he goes on to talk about how our nuclear power stations are shutting down, and that Russian subs are getting close to the border, that we're being invaded by the Russians because of Y2K, because all the computers were going to shut down when the clock changed from 1999 to 2000. That was the fear that many people had. And Alex ran with it. And he's been doing the same thing here and there, giving you some bits of truth, but mostly leading you right up to this moment today. The first chance we've had to crush globalism, and Alex Jones decides he's going to get on the other team. He's going to make it about the Democrats. You can't get rid of the radical Democrats until you get rid of the ones who have empowered them for 50 years. Okay, this is what running operations looks like. Here, Summer sent this over earlier. At an ICE facility outside the Metropolitan Detention Center. I'm going to replay it here. Paid, bought and paid for. Did you see what they were? Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh. Never mind. Let's get off of that. Okay. Let me use this one right here. I want to talk for just a minute about the Tyler Robinson trial. All this is going to be coming up soon. And you need to be very careful when that happens, because it's going to be. You're going to be lied to constantly. I wrote a little something to share with you here. All right. So what you're witnessing right now, as it pertains to the operation around Charlie Kirk's murder, public execution, is a familiar pattern, right? Noise, speculation, and narrative building, overtaking careful, sincere, thoughtful analysis. In high-profile cases like this, opinions form quickly, coverage intensifies, operations multiply, and people start to draw conclusions long before the legal process has even done its work. If you've been following Candace Owens, well, we should probably pray for the people who've been following Candace Owens sincerely, right? That's You're not getting anything. Again, the way Nick Freitas said, the way she's been treating Charlie Kirk is not as a friend. She's been treating Charlie Kirk as an enemy, because everything she does harms the actual case. Whether or not Robinson is the one who did it or not, I'm not even going there. Because everything she's doing is causing anyone who might have information or evidence leading to the actual prosecution of Charlie's killer, if it were not him, even if it is him, everything she does harms that, because it causes these people to go hide evidence, to leave the country. It harms the case. So this is not what a friend does. The central message of the discussion is simple. You have to return to the evidence. That's what the legal system does. We have to trust the legal system. We have to keep it honest. But this is not how you do it, what Candace Owens is doing. There's a foundational principle. Evidence must lead, not bias. Human nature tends to search for information that confirms what we already believe. That's confirmation bias. Real investigation requires the opposite, setting aside your assumptions and following the facts wherever they lead. That discipline is what ultimately produces truth, even when institutions themselves have gaps or misunderstandings. Even when they're corrupted, this is still how we operate. That framework is essential when you look at this case and when this comes up in the media soon. Again, on September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed during an outdoor rally at Utah Valley University. Tyler Robinson was accused and is now, we've seen a couple motions, a couple things have happened in the media regarding the case. And the case, the trial, the process is now approaching a critical phase in the legal process. There's going to be an evidentiary hearing. That's not the trial itself, but it's one of the most important stages in shaping what the trial will ultimately become. This evidentiary hearing is scheduled for April 17th. That's 4 days from right now. We're telling you before it happens. Watch what happens. Now, this is where the case will take its legal form. This is where things will start to shape up, and you'll be able to see what the defense might be arguing, what the prosecution, how they're planning to go about making their case. But it won't be about public commentary or media narratives. It will be about determining what evidence is going to be admissible in court. Importantly, there are legitimate reasons why this hearing could be delayed. So it happens all the time. So when and if this evidentiary hearing is delayed, we're telling you right now, watch what happens on social media. Watch all of the speculation. It's not unusual for hearings to be delayed, for them to be pushed back. The defense has stated that they're still waiting on critical discovery, right? That means that they're waiting on some of the core evidence. Probably some of it's been difficult to get because of Candace Owens running her mouth about everything. Some of that evidence will come from federal authorities, right? And it's difficult for a state to get evidence from federal authorities. It's not quick, in other words. There's complications. First of all, control. The prosecution doesn't fully control the timing of when federal government will disclose what it has. Secondly, analysis. Once evidence is received, then it has to be examined, tested, and reviewed by experts. That's not a quick process. Third, fairness. The defense must have adequate time to build as strong a case as they can for their client. If you were in that seat, you would want that. They need time to be able to challenge the evidence. Courts will not proceed if something has happened that undermines due process, right? This is what our country is founded on, due process, especially in a case where the death penalty is being considered. So delays are not signs of manipulation or weakness. They're part of ensuring the process is done correctly. It's also a strategic layer, right? New evidence, as it comes in, can trigger new motions. This thing could drag out for a while. You could have requests to suppress evidence. There could be additional hearings. Each of these steps affects the timeline. So if the schedule shifts, it's not unusual. If it does shift, that just reflects the complexity of building a legally sound case. All right, so we just want to let you know. We want to warn you before that happens. Watch what happens on social media. If that evidentiary hearing is pushed back, you're going to hear cries of conspiracy. It's just how the legal system works. If it goes forward, if it does happen on that day, you're still going to hear all kinds of cries of conspiracy. I won't get into the evidence right now. It's what's known so far, at least by the public. There could be three outcomes in the evidentiary hearing. It could be that all the evidence is admitted, some of it is going to be could be suppressed, or could be a mixed ruling. The third scenario is the most common. Some of it will be accepted, some of it will be suppressed. And then that decision will shape everything that follows. So the key takeaway, what's about to happen in the Tyler Robinson trial for Charlie Kirk's murder, which is the prosecution is seeking the death penalty. Cases in the legal system are not decided by headlines or speculation. They're built or weakened through careful legal decisions about what can actually be proven. And right now, there's a lot of noise around this case, obviously. Much of what's being discussed publicly is not evidence. Almost nothing that Candace Owens has talked about is evidence of anything. The court is just focused on one thing: what is admissible, what is reliable, and what can ultimately be presented to a jury so that the prosecution can make a complete case, and so that the defense can give their client as strong a defense as possible. That's where your focus should be. Not the narratives, not the assumptions, but the evidence. Your focus shouldn't be on Candace Owens, ever. Not anymore, or Tucker Carlson for that matter. All right, I'm going to hold the Chatham House piece for later when we do the for a future show. I'm going to hold Vance's comments too. I've got them right here because he's talking. What he says in that speech in Hungary is reflected right in all through the national security strategy. It helps you to understand that they really are doing what they say they're setting out to do.
Right.
Okay, so 116. So let's see. Let's look at the Substack here for a second. Let's make sure that we. This is, I guess, our feature article right now. Globalism is over. Mm-hmm. If you look at this article, this is what would you say, Summer? This is probably one of the best summaries of
as far
why we're
as,
saying what we're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, as far as providing like direct quotations and clips of different leaders echoing the national security strategy and the national defense strategy, so that you can get a sense of what is the Trump administration actually communicating, and how is the world reacting to it. So even with the Chatham House.
So if you follow this article from top to bottom, read, play the video. They're just short videos. Read, play the video. Read, play the video. Mm-hmm. You will have a much clearer understanding for what's going on right now. So we want to make sure we bring that one up, but also not Iraq 2.0, both of them. We'll tell you that too, but this is what I wanted to bring up here. Also made a moral case for regime change in Iran last week that you can watch that over here on Substack or on YouTube. Plus there's a little bit of, we put some text in there too, right? With that video. Bit of an article. I'll just click on it and see. It's going to start playing. Yeah, it's disturbing how the loudest libertarians and patriot podcasters champion liberty until they see another nation suffering under brutal oppression. So I try to explain in this video why regime change in Iran is the right course in action, why it's just. Okay, but here's what I want to show today, Summer. This most recent article, which deals with our topic today, the technocracy trap, how outdated analysis is fueling the very system it claims to expose. Because when truth is obscured, the path to real freedom is missed, and that is the point. How can we summarize this? Because we want people to go read the details.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean...
Well, here's the at a glance. How about that?
Yeah, that's fine. You can read
All right.
my summary there. That's fine.
I'm speaking for Summer here. This is her writing. Over the past several weeks, I've been approached by friends.
True story. Really have been.
I was there for it.
Multiple friends send me this article going, hey, is this true? Like, what's the veracity of this?
Yeah. I've been approached by friends I never would have expected. People who typically rely on mainstream news asking serious questions about the veracity of the claims Patrick Wood has been making. That alone is telling. When narratives that once lived on the fringes begin to filter into everyday conversations, it signals that something deeper is taking hold in the public consciousness. That's a good point. That is precisely why I'm writing this. What is being presented as analysis of the Iran conflict and the trajectory of globalism and technocracy is, in many cases, a profound misreading of reality. Wood is not alone, though. He's part of a growing chorus within so-called alternative media, amplifying a message of inevitability, collapse, and nihilistic decline. But this narrative, that all is lost, and that the system is all-powerful and unchanging, is not only inaccurate, it is dangerous. It breeds paralysis where clarity and action is needed. And it cannot go unchallenged.
Right. So it's like this, again, what we've been saying about the battle over perception. There's a battle that's being waged not merely over policy, but over perception, while the underlying structure of global control is being challenged and disrupted in meaningful ways that we can see visibly across economic, political, and geopolitical developments. There's one that insists nothing has changed, that the same trajectory remains inevitable, and that resistance is either futile or misguided. And, it's really obvious that they're doing this on purpose, because if the public can be led to misinterpret what is happening right now, if they can be convinced that a reordering is actually chaos or that restoration is regression, then they can be guided to respond accordingly, even to the point of supporting policies and leaders that run directly counter to preserving the United States from totalitarianism. So, like if Patrick Wood has a message of, look, see, I've been telling you for as long as I've been writing books, and here's what's happening, and this is what you're seeing, and when you see this, it means that. But he's not acknowledging to any extent the fact that this administration is going against globalism, that it's deconstructing it, that he's gone to war in Venezuela and Iran to go after some of those stronghold nodes to take it down. If you're not going to acknowledge any of that, then there's a serious problem with that analysis, and people need to be made aware of that. And when I did speak with my friends about this and went through the points, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I can see what you're saying about that." So praise God for that. But that's why
some other old friends weren't so
then there
receptive.
Actually, I had a really good friend of mine that I've known since 2007. I knew her when I lived in Sydney. She visited me in Bali. She's from the UK. She lives in Brighton, and she was just full bore, like, Trump is a pedophile, and
just right out of the gate,
just all the stuff that goes on. Again, just that tabloid news that goes around that people just take as fact. Like that he's part of the globalist movement. She's like, he's part of the Illuminati, and he's just their puppet, and So, some people will just be stuck in that paradigm, but that's something that because my point has been is that it's really obvious that they've preloaded the subconscious minds of people so that when they see certain things happening in geopolitics, they will misinterpret what it means. I really firmly believe, having watched all of this stuff for decades and how they do things, that they have preloaded our subconscious minds to misinterpret geopolitical events that are happening right now. And many people just are simply totally not interpreting what's happening through an updated scope of things, and that's the world in which, that is the psychological operation scape that we are living in right now, which is but if you know about it, then it's easy to see through it.
Well, that's really what we're here to do. An important part of the Christian media ministry that we have been given to shepherd here is
we destroy arguments and take captive.
Yes, exactly.
Arguments against God.
We destroy
the knowledge of God.
Destroy arguments and every lofty opinion, every fresh hot take narrative that's raised up against the knowledge of God. Vain janglings as well.
Vain janglings against the knowledge of God, and there's a lot of that stuff going on.
Yeah. Look at Proverbs 17. Let's go to verse 7 first. Look at this. Fine speech is not becoming to a fool. Still less is false speech to a prince. I'm going to keep going on this Proverbs 17 is very interesting. This is, fine speech is not becoming to a fool. Foolish people talk a lot. A rebuke goes deeper into a man of understanding than 100 blows into a fool. So that means if you're a Christian, if you're a truth seeker, you're willing to accept correction when you're wrong. All right. Proverbs 17:15. He who justifies the wicked. This reminds me of Tucker Carlson right now. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord. Mm-hmm. Especially those who say that a particular book of the 66 books of the canon, we are Protestants after all, that doesn't belong.
Yeah, anything
justifying the wicked.
Anything that's supporting the international rules-based order and globalism is considered ethical, and anything that's coming against that is considered dangerous. Sweet for bitter and bitter for sweet.
That's exactly right. Proverbs 17:24. The discerning sets his face toward wisdom, but the eyes of a fool are on the ends of the earth. Right? Looking everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Looking for the darkness, trying to uncover all of the deception, rather than, it's like that old adage, that old comparison, where whether or not it's a true event, it works, because there was a person who was charged with spotting counterfeit money.
Yeah.
And she had the best record of anyone in her institution for finding the counterfeits. Mm-hmm. She could always find the counterfeits. And when they asked her, she said, "How do you do that? It must be difficult to understand how all of the counterfeits work." Mm-hmm. She says, "No, I don't study the counterfeits. I study the genuine article."
Yeah, exactly.
That way I know when something's counterfeit. I don't have to study the counterfeits because I already know what is real.
It's Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So it's by understanding what the truth is, we understand what God has said, then we can understand all the things that are counter to that message. It's like, no, that's not what God has said.
Do you have that open right there?
I do.
Read verses 1 and 2. Was that 1 and 2? I think 1 and 2, it's offer yourself. 3. Yeah, read verses 1 and 2, offering yourself as a sacrifice.
I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect.
Yeah, so it starts out with offering yourself as a sacrifice. In other words, living in submission to Christ, which is to live in submission to the Word, to the truth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at Proverbs 17. I love these. Verse 27, whoever restrains his words has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. Verse 28, even a fool who keeps silent is considered wise. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent. That's that old, it's often attributed to Mark Twain. It's better to be thought a fool and remain silent than it is to speak and remove all doubt. We see a lot of fools speaking all over the place today, right? Proverbs 26. This is where we'll end it today. Proverbs 26, verses 4 and 5. And anything that you want to add after this, I just want to...
I will drop the article that I put out about Patrick Wood and just that whole camp of people on the internet and the alternative media scene.
Globalism is over is already in there, right? In the description.
Yeah, it is. Actually, both are under the description.
Okay, good. So those are in the description below this video for you if you want to get to them quickly. If you want to get to them very quickly, download the Armor of Truth mobile app, because you hit the little blog button or our articles tab there. You can read these articles without having to worry about trying to navigate the Substack website and all that. So she's putting that in the chat for you right now. Is that right? In the live chat? Okay. Proverbs 26, verses 4 and 5. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. Now that at first glance seems almost contradictory, doesn't it? It raises an immediate question: which is it? Do we answer the fool or do we not? This passage is used quite often in apologetics to determine when to engage and how to engage. And if you're a Christian, every Christian is an apologist, is a defender of the faith, in other words. 1 Peter 3:15 tells us all that, right? Be ready. Always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that is in you, but do so with gentleness and respect. But this is not confusing. This is not a contradiction. This is wisdom. It comes right out of the part of the Bible we call the wisdom literature. It's not giving us a rigid formula. This is training you in discernment, because the ability to judge rightly in real situations is part of our Christian witness. And what you have here are two principles that must be held together. That's why they come in succession. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. That's a warning. Don't engage the fool on his own terms. Don't adopt his tone or his assumptions or his methods. The fool in Scripture is not simply somebody who lacks intelligence. The fool is one who rejects God's truth. Somebody who speaks confidently without knowledge, who is driven by pride and self-interest. Proverbs tells us elsewhere that the fool delights in airing his own opinions. So when you engage a fool improperly, when you respond with sarcasm, anger, exaggeration, or emotional reaction, and we all do that sometimes, that's why we repent, right? We don't want to do that, but sometimes we do. And praise God, his mercies are new every day. And because of Christ and the cross, what Christ accomplished on the cross. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you hear somebody like Tucker Carlson, or you hear somebody like Candace Owens speaking, it's just, if you're anchored in God's word and you know what God has said, you're going to recognize immediately where that worldview falls apart. Like you're going to hear it, and you're going to know, the sheep know my voice, right? Yeah. So it's like,
and they hear me.
So I'm not hearing the voice of Jesus Christ in any of the vain janglings going on with those two. Yeah, he's
going to have Russell Brand on. He was that was his big announcement. I saw it this morning on YouTube. It came across the feed.
Really, I thought he sort of disappeared.
No, he's still there.
But
and I have been ambivalent about Russell Brand for a while. Sometimes I hope it's sincere.
He's lost.
I hope
he's
it's
lost.
sincere.
I mean, these people need prayers, and
we'll see.
That's what we're called to do, is pray for these people. But for sure, they're not Christians, and they are being deceptive. And don't be shy about calling it out for what it is. They are being deceptive, and it is very problematic, and it's very poisonous for our country right now.
Yeah, I mean, and defending our country is not our first duty.
Being good stewards of what we've been given them
is our duty, right? Being a good steward of God's good gifts, and liberty, being born in America, is certainly a good gift of God.
Yeah,
could have been born in Afghanistan.
For all of America's flaws and all of the treasonous forces that are trying to take her down, the thing that's keeping us afloat at the moment is the fact that we are grounded and we have a foundation that is biblical.
That's unchanging and eternal. This truth doesn't change. That's why this is what this is saying, verse 4. Don't become part of the problem. Correct the problem. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest you become like him yourself.
Don't become black-pilled.
No, black-pilled is to believe, that's to be a nihilist.
Yeah, the nihilistic
There's
degradation.
No purpose. It's all gone. It's sort of like Patrick Wood's article that you critiqued there.
Yeah, that's what I'm just trying to get people to see is like,
Whitney Webb is black-pilled.
Nihilism. Yeah, there's a nihilistic degradation, and it is a psyop that is being run on Western civilization, particularly in the United States at this moment. And then also getting people around the world to perceive us as being, lunatics or just as bad as Islamic jihadists. There's a total operation to, again, bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter.
The very thing that Tucker said about faith. When you mock someone's faith, you're mocking the very idea of faith. That statement right there, I have to quote David Wood. He said it's the most idiotic thing anyone's ever said. I didn't say it. David Wood said it, but I agree.
Silly.
Because you're saying that all faiths are equal, and that if someone
that's a message of coexist. That's interfaith.
If someone has faith in Buddha, or if someone has faith in a demon, well, you should not mock that. You should let them go on in their foolishness, right? Mm-hmm. No. This is what this is saying, right? When you do what Tucker did, when you say something like that, you are becoming the problem. You start to resemble the very thing that you said you were trying to confront. That's the danger. All right, so verse 5. So the first verse again, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself, right? Don't be part of the problem. Verse 5. Now this is where that's the warning. Here comes the command. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. Now there, you're commanded to do the opposite. To answer, to respond, to confront. You're being commanded by God's word to confront foolishness. Why? Because if foolishness goes unchallenged, you're showing love when you confront foolishness. Mm-hmm. When you mock a false faith, you're showing love to a person because you're trying to prevent their heart from being hardened into a false confidence. What Tucker Carlson has done is the most unchristian thing you can do. He has confirmed these people. He's justified them in their false faith.
He's enabled them in their sin. He's enabled them in their sin. He's helping to entrench sinful ideas.
He's making it possible for someone who has a foolish faith, a foolish belief system, to believe that they're right.
At the end of the day, he's touting Fabian Marxist globalist ideology. I mean, that's where it all boils down to. It's a social gospel. It's a false gospel, and it's heretical, and it is antichrist. And Larry Alex Taunton did a great job with Eric Metaxas, making some really strong points. That would be good. That's actually a good.
Maybe put that in the description too. Maybe.
Okay.
If we can remember about that.
I can do that.
Or you can just search Larry Taunton and Eric Metaxas. Look at the recent show on Eric Metaxas' channel.
Yeah, they made some good points.
And one of the things they said on there too, one of the dangerous things about what you see Alex Jones doing, Joel Webbin also, Carlson, they're leading other people astray. And then as they confirm people in their error, those people are leading more people astray. So this thing has the butterfly effect and causes all kinds. Larry Taunton said that Tucker Carlson is actually right now, he is a force for evil in our country.
He is a force for evil right now. He is.
So this is where you see the balance in verse 5 here. Verse 4 says, don't answer in a way that makes you look like a fool. And then verse 5 says, do answer in a way that exposes the fool.
Right.
David Wood's video in response to Tucker, the first one we saw anyway, did exactly that.
Yeah.
It's a good example of Proverbs 26, 4 and 5. So it's not whether you should speak, it's how to speak, when to speak, and why. So let's bring it into the modern context, right? Let's think about what we're dealing with today, especially social media. Our age is full of foolishness. It's not just present. Today, foolishness is amplified. People spread sensational claims, half-truths, utter falsehoods, and they do it for all kinds of reasons. They do it for attention, influence. Often they do it for money, for power. And the system rewards outrage, speed. Who can get that hot take out there quicker? I think I would, maybe if Sean Ryan had stopped and thought a bit about the comment he made where he shared the false story about the Pope's ambassador coming to the Pentagon, which never happened.
Well, I think it just shows, though, like how if you're really a truth seeker, it's not hard to research these things and look into it. And
you have to be grounded in the truth first. Like you have to be submitted to Christ before this becomes something that's fairly easy to do. It's not always easy.
Yeah.
But it gets easier. And it's part of sanctification is being made more like Christ. Not all the way, not until the return. We will be made like him. That means we'll have a body like his. But anyway, the system rewards this, right? It rewards this craziness. It rewards, you get your hot take out there fast, right? To get an emotional reaction out of the internet, out of the public, that's what's rewarded. Not truth, not careful thought. So how do we apply this? Proverbs 26, 4 and 5 here. There are times when you must not engage, right? You don't have to comment on everything that's happening out there. That's the urge today. I have that urge. So this is a particular conviction on my heart now. I have the urge to comment on everything. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to form an opinion on everything that is said in the news or on social media. If somebody's clearly trolling, baiting, or operating in bad faith, when you engage that, it often feeds the thing they want. They're trying to pull you into that, right? They're trying to get you to come in to their deception, into their narrative, so they can get you all soiled up. They can get you in the middle of the...
Well, they want to manufacture your consent too. So it's like...
And amplify the noise.
Well, to manufacture consent. So to get the greatest thing the devil can do is dupe you into voting against your own best interest.
Yes.
He's trying to trick you into voting against your best interest. He's trying to get you to lose focus, lose patience, and feed all of your desires of, I want this thing and I want it now.
So, in what Tucker did in saying you shouldn't mock someone else's faith, you want to avoid hostility and sarcasm, right? Because when you fall into hostility and sarcasm, then you've already lost something important. You've compromised your own integrity. And we do that. We all do that.
Right. And
I've
again,
probably done that during this show.
It comes down to the lie of coexist, like this lie that said that, everybody's is equal, and everybody has a voice, and all faiths have equal respectability.
Yeah, so you want to respond.
Except the one true living God. That's the one that's not allowed to have the seat at the table, though.
Yeah.
That's repressive tolerance.
So you want to
he's engaging in repressive tolerance. Herbert Marcuse's repressive tolerance when he sits there and tries to tell you.
Yes, he's trying to establish what's acceptable.
Right.
Yeah, they call that moving the Overton window, or
he's trying to.
Charles Taylor called it the social imaginary.
And it is that Marxist framework of I'm going to shame you. How dare you? We're not the party. The conservative, even if it's Christless conservatism. We're not the party of I'm offended. But he's over there going, how dare you? I mean, doesn't he sound like Greta Thunberg? Yeah. I mean, this is woke. This is the woke right.
Like a Christian.
To give James Lindsay credit, he warned us about this very thing. And that's what Tucker and Bannon and Alex Jones and Candace, they're woke right. This is woke right. This is Marxism under the umbrella of the right-wing movement.
Eric Metaxas on that show said that Megyn Kelly had tweeted at him, calling him an unstable person.
Yeah, that's exactly what Marxists do. When they want to defame you, they'll attack your sanity.
While months ago, Megyn Kelly had Eric Metaxas on her show and was just gushing about his books and how everyone should buy it.
Double-minded and unstable
And
in
then
all
she
of their
said
ways.
he's a very unstable person because he happened to
Double-minded.
disagree with her.
Right. I mean, these people are just they're assets, they're plants.
So, not every false statement deserves a reply. Not every argument is worth your time. Sometimes the wisest response is restraint. But there are times when you must engage. That is when
Well,
the
that's what
lies
we're
are
here to
spreading.
do. Yeah.
When the falsehood is spreading, when others are being misled, this is particularly what we
You
do
stand
here.
on the truth.
You have to jump into that one to keep people from being misled. But when you do that, you don't use the same tactics.
No.
You see how what they're doing is unfaithful? What Tucker's doing is
Yeah.
unfaithful?
Well, yeah,
Using the same tactics of the enemy.
Once you understand how the woke mob works.
Or when silence might appear as agreement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe you're
Right.
standing side by side with
Yeah, if you're just going to be quiet, then that's also agreement.
You're standing side by side with a Muslim and he says something favorable about Jesus, who they see as just another prophet. And you're on the street corner or something, you must speak there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to speak there.
If you have knowledge of something and you don't warn, again, that's being the watchman. And if you don't warn, you have blood on your hands. Because if God has given you the ability to learn it and understand it, then you're responsible to communicate it for the sake of love, because you love that person and you want to see them saved and not deceived.
Exactly. That's what verse 5 is saying when it applies, in that you answer the fool not by joining in with his folly, but by exposing it.
Right.
So you do this by speaking clearly, truthfully, and directly. The best thing you can do is speak from Scripture. The best thing you can do is be to be in Scripture so often that you start to think in Scripture and speak in it, and then it's very easy. It's much easier to come out and jump into those phrases and correct them. The way you do it, you identify the claim. Tucker said that you shouldn't mock someone's faith. That's the claim. It's wrong. It's evil. He said it's evil to mock someone's. He said if you mock someone's faith, you're trying to be like God, is what he said. And then you state what is true. No, Tucker, all faiths are not equal. And it's the loving thing to do to show someone how their faith is false. So you reveal the inconsistency. You reveal the lack of evidence. This is something that you do in your articles quite a bit.
By him making that statement, he's actually acting like God himself.
Yes, he's the one acting like God. Because now, why? Why? Right? We've identified the claim. Now, why is Tucker himself? He's saying that Trump's acting like God, but Tucker's acting like God. Why? Because he is presenting a whole new moral structure that you should live by.
That's not biblical.
It's just, it's very easy to see. So this is crucial. When you do not get drawn into endless back and forth. You say what is true and you leave it there. You click your heels, you kick the dust off your heels and move on. Because often your real audience is not the fool, it's the people watching. This is the debate. This is the most important thing about when you're debating, whether it's social media or in person. Always remember that your debate with your interlocutor, the one that you're debating against, is important, but it's more important all the people that will see it and hear it. That's the real audience.
I mean, and that's the thing, is it's like when Tucker comes out and makes all these claims, he just shows his ignorance. Like, he's just showing how lost he really is, and we should pray for him. And he is a lost man. He is deceived, and we should be very afraid for him. Because as it stands right now, he's in a very dangerous place. Should he lose his life somehow, he would not be in a good place.
It's like truth spoken in a sinful way is undermines the truth. So we want to bring the truth, but not in a sinful way.
Right.
So you want to correct Tucker Carlson, but not in a sinful way. You don't want to get in a fist fight with him. Unless he hits you first, and then you can
and If he's threatening your family and he's threatening your neighborhood, then there's just cause to take up the sword and defend your territory too. Like this pacifism, this neo-Anabaptist movement that's swept the nation as well. That's a whole nother topic to get into, and we've addressed it before. Just war theory, the biblical reasons that we need to act against evil. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. If good men do nothing, then evil prevails.
I tried to make a moral case for regime change in Iran based on the weaker people there who have been oppressed for 50 years. And the reason things like that are important to do, the reason it's important for us to engage these topics, to talk about political things, is because you can't separate politics from morality.
No.
This is not just an intellectual issue. This is a spiritual issue. The fool doesn't lack information. He suppresses truth and unrighteousness.
Right, and that's why you see also sort of like as things intensify that we've broken away from our libertarian friends.
They've broken away from us.
Yeah, well, it falls apart. There's no more co-belligerency because they basically want us engage in do as thou wilt. Liberty is license.
Yeah.
And that's going to end in destruction. So
there's a real important point here to make that we talk about this a lot, and particularly because of the kind of Christians that we are. But it's not because the fool lacks information. It's because he's suppressed the truth in his heart. So we want to engage in this forum with the truth and then let it go, because only God is the one who will open blind eyes.
Yeah.
But he uses us and our witness to do it.
As vessels.
He can.
Vessels of mercy or vessels of wrath.
Yeah, you don't want to be a vessel of wrath. So your responsibility, our responsibility, is not to win every argument. Our responsibility is to be faithful, to speak truth when it's needed, remain silent when wisdom requires it, and faithful to represent Christ in both. Christ is our ultimate example. There are moments when he stayed silent, many moments when he remained silent before his accusers, fulfilling Isaiah 53, like a lamb before its shearers. And then there were moments when he spoke with piercing clarity, exposing hypocrisy and falsehood. Going into the temple, he sat there for at least maybe, I don't know how long, but it seems like a couple hours, weaving that whip, working up this righteous indignation, and he went in and turned the tables over and ran them out of there with a whip. He spoke with piercing clarity, exposing.
Speaking of that, sorry to interrupt. It struck me. Yeah. We saw A Great Awakening.
Yeah.
This movie, it was so powerful. I really encourage you guys to go out and see it in the theaters. Right now it's in the theater. I guess it was released for Easter. Speaking, Whitfield, he just had this thunderous delivery. And this
about George Whitfield, evangelist George Whitfield,
with a friendship with Benjamin Franklin, and
it's really about their relationship together and how Whitfield influenced the Constitution and the founders through Benjamin Franklin.
Right.
So one of the best examples that you can look to for how Jesus handles this, Proverbs 26, 4 and 5, is in Matthew 23. I won't read it all, but here we go. Where you hear him calling out these woes. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces, for you neither enter yourselves nor allow those who would enter to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across sea and land to make a single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. This is piercing clarity. It is absolute truth, perfect wisdom, perfect timing, perfect righteousness. So there's your example. And here's the principle that you have to take with you. We all should take with us. Don't engage in a way that makes you look like a fool. Remember your example. But do engage when silence would allow folly to appear as truth. That requires discernment. It requires faithfulness. It requires self-control. It requires a commitment to truth that is grounded, not in your emotions or your reaction, but grounded in fear of the Lord. Because at the end of the day, the goal is not to win the moment. It's to honor God, to uphold truth, and serve others with clarity. That is wisdom. Not mine, not Summers. That is God's wisdom. And you can't lose. And that's what you use. Thank you very much. All right, my friends, that's all we've got for you today.
Yeah, and
just under 2 hours.
I think that movie, because
The Great Awakening.
George Whitfield's voice,
Let me show that.
he was so bold. Yeah, if you could show like a clip of that, it was just so inspiring, because here was a man that clearly had the Spirit of God and was just fearless and not afraid to speak the truth in a very bold way, in a way that the church has not been doing in our time. You know, losing John MacArthur and Vodi Bakum, huge loss for the church. But there again, God's will, and we trust it. But this movie is like just super inspiring.
So we'll play it out with this. This will be a good way to play us out today with this trailer for A Great Awakening. And I'm telling you, Summer and I talked about this after this movie. This really encapsulates a lot of the stuff
what we've been saying,
of what we've been felt led to talk about.
It's wild.
Yeah. So, all right, my friends, God bless you. We'll see you here again next time.
See you next time. Thank you, guys. Here's the trailer.